we took it from 150,000 a year to 300, took it from 300 to 600, took it from 600 to 1.2 million. And it was over a very short period of time. The Lord just kept on giving me strategy on how to grow the business. And it was really on how to grow your people.
Yeah.
And that was how I grew my business. And we became even though we couldn't pay people well, we became a sought after job in town, but it wasn't because of our pay, it was because of the investment. And there's an investment we make in people that really, that it was attractive to a lot of the people in our city.
Hello, Violin. Welcome to today's Kingdom Culture conversation, where we're talking about kingdom culture in marketplace ministry. We have some amazing business leaders with us today that are part of our Bethel community, but more so a part of our Reading community and having great influence on our region here. So I would like to welcome Ted and Michelle Thompson, who are the owners and founders of Energy Innovations, and also Ahab Alindi, who is the owner of Chick-fil-A, as well as facilitates our local Champions business leaders. And he's a coach, an author, and done many things as well as a leader and business owner in this region. So welcome, guys. Thanks for joining us today.
So fun to be here.
Yeah. Ted and Michelle, why don't you tell us a little bit about your journey into business? Who are you? Tell us about your family and your children, and just how did you get into the whole business world?
Okay. We live here in Reading. We've been here about 12 years, but we started out in San Diego. And I think Ted and I were married about 3 months before I very decidedly remember him taking me to the Encinitas Library down in SoCal, where we're from. And he pitched to me at the library this idea of this company we were going to start. And he told me it was going to be amazing. We were going to work for ourselves. We weren't going to be employed by anybody else. We were going to make tons of money.
I said, Michelle, we're going to make so much money doing this by ourselves.
And I was inspired. I bought it. I was like, that's incredible. I wasn't raised by entrepreneurs in any way. And so I found his risk-taking.
Charisma.
I just lapped it up. I had no idea that we would be heading into some seriously financially challenging years.
Right.
As we figured out how to grow a business together.
It's one of those, what you don't know, can kill you, kind of things where, like, at this point, a certain amount of naivety was key and being able to take the risk and just go for it. And, of course, we had no kids at the time, so it made it a little bit simpler to take that risk.
Live on beans and rice, that was fine.
Right.
It was just us.
Yeah.
That was a challenging time. Definitely the first 5 years. We were called Electric Innovations back then, but we did a lot of work in San Diego at that time, and we just kind of bootstrapped it, did the best that we could, and went into a decent amount of debt, just the right amount. I don't know if that's real or true. But it was one of those challenges, and we just took on a home remodel at the same time, which we just went all in, and I think that it was just both of our personalities.
I don't know if we had language for it then, but we were definitely going to be called into real estate. We were going to be called into business. And as young marrieds, we were both just like jumped in.
Yeah.
And so that was about 17 years ago.
Did you have a business background before then, or any degree that sort of pointed you in this direction?
I had a degree in computer science and in business administration, but in reality, I don't know that any of those classes actually helped me.
It's often the case.
I mean, it taught me how to read and write and write an essay, but at the end of the day, there's so much more to business than that, and a lot of that was taught from my uncle down there in San Diego. He had a big construction company that I worked under, and so I learned a lot about how to do finances and balance and macroeconomics through him teaching. And we would spend late nights together, and he would teach, all the different principles of construction and contracting and that kind of thing. And that kind of helped me, grease the wheels for going out on my own at that point. And so after that, I kind of spun off of that, and I started doing contracting in San Diego, and with a couple commercial enterprises, Johnson Matthey, some big commercial outfits, but a lot of residential, like custom controls for the affluent, down in Rancho Santa Fe.
Yeah.
And got to rub shoulders with a lot of very wealthy people that love to hang out and talk. And so just got to kind of ask a lot of good questions. Like, so one of the people owned 10 Taco Bells. And it's like, how did you get there? What made you decide to own 10 Taco Bells?
Right.
And why do that? And so that was kind of my business training, was just asking a lot of questions and hanging out with good people and good mentors. So
That's amazing. And then we'd been doing electric innovations at the time for about 4 years and had learned a remarkable amount and felt like it was time to come up to Reading. I wanted to come. And I think God made it clear it was the right time. And Ted said, we'll figure it out. And so we ended up, I was here in school, and then he was there working a lot. And that's how our lives looked while I went through BSSM first year. And then in second year, we started doing a kind of a different iteration of what we'd been doing in Southern California. And we started working in renewable energy. And that's what Energy Innovations is now here in Reading.
More affectionately known as the Poop Company.
Absolutely.
In my world.
If that matters.
That's right.
Yeah.
Poop the metal.
Yeah. So essentially, just to explain what it is that we do a little bit more is there's a process called anaerobic digestion, which is quite popular in Europe and other countries many years ago. And in probably the last 10 years has really taken off in the United States. And so that process just takes waste, which is mostly cow manure, and that's the primary ingredient of this. And anything though, as far as landfill gas and anything that's got proteins in it can be broken down, and the process is CH4 or methane. And then that methane can be burned in generators or put into vehicles for fuel. And so we kind of saw this as an opportunity. I got connected up with Daryl Moss. We just had this conversation one day, and I said, you know what? I just felt like we both felt like God was saying, this is going to be the future. This is going to really take off in California. And we were one of the first ones to jump in. And I think to this day in California, we're still number one as far as number of projects that we've done. And so God just really blessed that through just hearing, what's the next thing that's going to happen. And I felt like, let's just take the risk and let's start a company and let's shift our whole company in that direction. So built our first one in Sacramento about 11 years ago. And ever since then, it's really taken off, done over 55 projects now. So
It's incredible. It was worth the risk.
It was. It was.
It was worth trusting him and worth going with it.
yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
Great. Ahab, why don't you tell us a little bit about your journey with business? You're currently the owner of Chick-fil-A here in Reading, but you've been through a journey to get there.
Yeah. For me, it started, I graduated school of ministry. I had a background in social work, so business made a lot of sense, right?
I have social work background too, and I'm like,
Yeah, exactly. But it didn't make a lot of sense for me. Like there wasn't a lot of history in my life that said, yeah, you're going to be great at business.
Yeah.
But one day I walked into a coffee shop here in Reading, and I was leading some volunteers or interns for Steve Backlund, and we were meeting at this coffee shop in town, and the manager tells me that they're going out of business, and that as of Sunday they're not going to be here any longer. And I heard the Lord say so clearly, "You're meant to own this."
Wow.
And I was like, okay, I don't have a grid for that. Wow. Plus, I've only been married to my wife for 8 months. I'm wondering how she's going to feel about that.
wow, similar.
So yeah,
This with married. What happens to these men?
it's not. I don't think it's us.
It's
I
kind of
think
like
it's the
getting
Lord.
a loan for your home. Like while you have steady employment, you get the loan, you get the wife,
Right.
and then you go into business.
When you have a supportive wife,
Yeah,
you can do anything.
that's right.
Well, I went and tried to pitch it to my wife. It didn't go as good. It didn't quite go as good as Ted's. He had it sounds like he had an outline, a PowerPoint, the whole deal. I was just like, babe, what do you think? And my wife's like, oh, really? And I was like, I feel like the Lord is telling me to do this, but and then she walks in on me. I'm in my bedroom. We lived in a 2-bedroom apartment, right? And I'm sitting in the bed. I'm looking in the mirror, and I'm crying because I'm so scared. Because she's she's kind of on board, but doesn't really believe that we can do it because our history doesn't say that this is our destiny, right? And so I'm sitting there and I'm crying and I'm looking in the mirror and I'm just like, you can do this. Wow. You can do this. And I had no idea she's at the door of the bedroom. Wow. And she walks in and she's crying and she goes, if you can do it, I can do it too.
Wow.
And we went into it together, and this was obviously it's a cafe that's closing. They're not thriving, right?
Right. There's a reason they're
closing.
closing.
There's a reason they're closing. And I knew nothing about the restaurant business, and I knew nothing about really. All I knew was how to be a leader, and I learned that really from Steve Backlund because he had been my mentor for the last 2 years, and so I went in there going, okay, I'm going to just lead people really, really well, and didn't know anything about profit margins, anything like that, and then all that kind of came over time, but it was crazy because we went from that. I think that store was doing $150,000 a year, which is really bad. That's not even $15,000 a month. It's just really bad.
Right.
You can't live off that. If that would mean your income was less than $1,500 a month, and you're the owner with all the liability and all the risk. Not fun.
No. Not a smart business decision.
No, it's terrible. But at the time, I was like, awesome, let's do it. This is the Lord.
Well, it probably was.
It was the Lord. It really was. And then, we took it from $150,000 a year to 300. Took it from 300 to 600. Took it from 600 to 1.2 million. And it was over a very short period of time. The Lord just kept on giving me strategy on how to grow the business. And it was really on how to grow your people.
Yeah.
That was how I grew my business. And we became even though we couldn't pay people well, we became a sought after job in town, but it wasn't because of our pay. It was because of the investment. And there's an investment we make in people that really, that it was attractive to a lot of the people in our city. And that was a cool part for me because I couldn't offer a lot of money, but I could offer me. And I thought that was a pretty good offer for a lot of people, and people found that to be very good. And one of the things that we ended up doing is launching people into places where they could get a lot of money. Right. And so I got a reputation as a business to launch people.
Yeah.
And so I had a lot of people who wanted to work for me, even though it was minimum wage plus tips. They wanted to work for me because I was going to launch them, even though I couldn't pay them really well.
It's discipleship.
Yeah, that's really what it was.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you grew that business and then eventually sold that and stepped into...
Well, I started a couple other companies. We did some houses and real estate stuff, but then I built a company called Equipping Coach that was probably what I had done in my business. I was teaching other restaurants how to do it. And then the first customer I ever had was a Chick-fil-A owner in Florida. And he then loved my material, and then he got another Chick-fil-A owner to start using it in Elk Grove, California. And then these guys start telling me hey, have you ever thought about being a Chick-fil-A operator? You're exactly what we're looking for. And I told them, no, there's no way I'll do it. Because God has called me to the city of Redding. I'm not leaving to chase this opportunity.
And they were looking to plan to put a franchise here.
I wasn't a part of their strategy planning, right? I didn't know.
Redding wasn't,
And then I get a text message with a screenshot, and it's just got the city of Redding with a dot on it and a date.
Wow.
And this was 6 months after they asked me if I wanted to be an owner. And I was like, no, God's called me to this city. I'm not going anywhere. And it just felt like the hand of God, right? I say no, committing myself to what God has called me.
Yeah.
And he goes, well, how about we just move this to come here? And so it was really cool because that's the one thing that I've seen in business is if I'm not a brilliant businessman. I am a surrendered listener to the voice of God, right? And he's way smarter than I am. He's way smarter than Ted, even though Ted's way smarter than me. Ted's one of my best friends. But he's got really good plans.
Yeah.
And he knows how to grow a business.
Yeah.